Texas. It's the Lone Star State. But are they the lone contender state? Well, the folks who root for the Texas Rangers sure hope that they're going to give the defending champs a run for their money. This is Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, baseball fans. Yes, I said howdy. And welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, there's my lower third. You can call me Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for the last decade. And I have been part of the Locked On Podcast Network since the beginning of the 2019 season. So that means this will be the start of my fifth full season here at Locked On. Did I mention it's your team every day? Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter. Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And please, please, please subscribe to our YouTube network. And you can follow us. Get the little dings for your updates when we post new videos and everything like that. And you can check out some of the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network. Yes, my dog is very excited about it. Ellie, Papa's recording. And one of the many teams that my dog is really excited to hear about, the Texas Rangers. We're bringing on the host of Locked On Rangers. Hey, there's old friend of the podcast. There's Bryce Patrick. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just as excited as your dog for this season of upcoming Rangers baseball.
Now, I can speak dog, and not every dog has their own podcast. My dog was barking because he was saying, how come the Rangers aren't spending big money and putting together a championship team on the field? But I got to remind my dog that the Rangers have spent the last two off seasons really being one of the big spenders, or at least making the big splashy moves in the lineup and the rotation with the manager, and doing so to maybe hopefully ignite the rivalry that MLB so desperately wants to have between the Astros and the Rangers. Am I off base?
No, you're not off base at all. And I mean, the Astros moved to the American League in 2013, I believe it was. And so during that time, there have been 2 years where it was actually a competitive rivalry. Either year, either side of that rivalry in 2015 and 16, when the Rangers and Astros were going head to head, and the Rangers won back-to-back divisions, when everyone thought, oh, this is the Astros time. This is when the up-and-comers are going to up and come, and they didn't. Jeff Bannister led back-to-back AL West title teams. We don't have to talk about what happened in the playoffs those years, but they won the division title, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of angst and fighting and yelling and pointing fingers. It was a lot of fun, and it was great fun. But outside of that, either the Rangers have been amazing and the Astros have been trash, or the Astros have been amazing and the Rangers have been trash. And I don't know if it's going to be this year, but it's going to be soon that both of these teams are competitive and have some fun series, and maybe some of that anger and actual rivalry coming back.
Well, 2015 was the year we could have had something, because the Rangers were up 2-0 on Toronto, and the Astros, people forget, were up 2-1 on the eventual World Series champion Kansas City Royals, and it looked like we were going to have an all-Texas ALCS. Instead, we got a no-Texas ALCS. And, of course, 2016 was the year which I thought, with the combination of Hamels and Darvish, go far. And no. Well, look, I'm not here to pull the Band-Aid off of a hairy arm. The previous year, the Rangers really gobsmacked me when they signed Corey Seager. I would have bet everything I owned and everything I will be that Corey Seager was going to sign with the Yankees. To me, he looked tailor tailor-made for the Yankees. They needed a shortstop. He was an all-star caliber shortstop, young enough to still be an effective player, had a swing that looked like it would be a dream in Yankee Stadium, and was a former World Series MVP. So he had been there, done that. And he signs with the Rangers, as did Marcus Semien. I go, oh, dear, okay. And this year, they went out and they brought in 4 starting pitchers whose names people should recognize. Andrew Heaney, Jacob Odorizzi, Nathan Eovaldi, and the big kahuna of them all to a 5-year deal, Jacob deGrom. Now, I hope that also comes with the pool from the movie Cocoon, where they sort of turn old people into young people, or at least some sort of serum, maybe maybe a time machine. And of course, bringing in, when you were last on the show, they brought in Bruce Bochy to be the manager. You really can't accuse the Rangers of sitting on their hands this offseason. And we'll debate the merits of these moves, but as a Ranger fan, what does it feel to look like and say, hey, our team is at least not being idle?
It's great, because that has been one of my biggest problems with this team before last offseason, because heading into, I don't know if we did a podcast like before last offseason, before heading into the 2021 season when they signed Seager and Semien, but like I was very, very skeptical. All of that, the entire back half of that 2021 season, they're like, oh, there's gonna be all these free agents and we're gonna spend a bunch of money. We're gonna get at least one guy, probably 2. And I'm like, all right, shut up. You have done nothing of the sort. They hadn't paid any free agent big money since Shin-Soo Choo. I believe that was before the 2014 season. It had been a long time.
Because he had been with
the Reds.
Cincinnati and with Cleveland. He had like 1 year with Cleveland. I think it was the year they
lost
the wild card.
It was Cincinnati that was his year before that. He had one really great year, and he played like okay defense in center field, and the Rangers signed him to a bunch of big money, which, by the way, I still maintain is a decent contract. But it was like, okay, I don't think this team's going to do it. I don't think they're going to spend money. And now they have. And now they're back. I mean, everyone makes all this of, oh, they spent, this many dollars. It's like they didn't spend it all in one season. It is committed over the next 10 years, all of this like $750 million or whatever that they've spent in the past 2 off seasons. And you know where that's brought them. They're not ahead of the Mets. They're not even anywhere close to the Mets. They are in 10th place in terms of payroll, which is the first time they have been that since, I believe, the 2017 season. It's been a long time since they've spent money. 2017, they were, I believe, 3rd in payroll, and that was a year they ended up kind of punting on everything. They shipped off Yu Darvish to the Dodgers. Cole Hamels was traded for absolutely nothing the next year, and it was kind of like that was the end of that window. It kind of ended very abruptly and unceremoniously, and so I think ownership was definitely really hesitant to dole out money, and now they are, and I feel like they get a lot of criticism for, spending big, but like if you're in the Rangers position, you've already got big money tied up in the middle of your infield in Seager and Semien over the next 7 or 9 seasons, respectively. So you can't stop there. And they have a decent farm system. There's a lot of depth pieces, a lot of guys who I think could be solid, fringe contributors, maybe starters, but like not a whole lot of stars. So you got to go buy those stars in free agency. They did that with up the middle. They needed almost an entirely new rotation. They did bring back Martin Perez coming off a career year, which I really think people are sleeping on how great he was last year. And they go and they buy an entirely new rotation, and like, yeah, there are some question marks about all of them, but you buy that many. And then the guys you had as your number 3 and 4 starters last year right now are your 6 and 7 starters, I believe. And Dane Dunning, and who else am I thinking of? Glenn Otto as well. Those guys probably aren't going to get all that many starts. They're your 7th and 8th starters, I think. Yeah. So like, even if there is an injury to one of the big guys up top, as long as it's not Jacob deGrom, as long as it's not him, then it's a serious injury, I should say, more than a tweak and out a couple days and everyone has an aneurysm about it. But like an actual serious, like months long injury, then I think this team's in a really good place to fight for one of those wild card spots, because the offense, people don't realize that it was a pretty solid offense this past year. Like they They just needed competent starting pitching, and they just did not have it last year outside of Martin Perez and John Gray when he was healthy, and occasionally Dane Dunning.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, if you are a Ranger fan, that must be, I don't know, excuse me, I scratch my nose, that must be at least encouraging, is that the Rangers are at least they're putting a bet on this team. Whether they think they're the odds-on favorite to win, they are betting on this team. If you're going to be making any bets, go to FanDuel. I almost said the other one. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and easy to use. Then you can bet on anything, from the money line to point scores to threes drain. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Easy for you to say. All right, we are here with Bryce Patrick, and you were alluded to something before we did our FanDuel read, which was the injury history of Jacob deGrom. Now, look, I admit, and for people listening to the show, I know I do, I was pretty harsh on the Rangers and the Angels on one of the last series of shows that I did.
You were also harsh at the time of the signing, which I remember. I was bitter about.
I was harsh on the signings.
Definitely over it now. Clearly.
Well, look at. Okay, here's why I was harsh. When healthy, Jacob deGrom is one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher.
No,
in baseball.
the best. There's no if.
When he's healthy, he is the best pitcher in baseball. He is. As a native New Englander, and someone who grew up with the Red Sox, I have a gigantic soft spot in my heart for everything Nathan Eovaldi does, and I know that when he's on, he's fantastic. I know that Andrew Heaney is a talented pitcher. I know Jake Odorizzi is a talented pitcher. Those are 4 talented pitchers, and you're rolling the dice saying if 1 or 2 of them give us a full year, all of a sudden, if 2 of them give you a legit year, then they can be contending. But, I mean, Jacob deGrom is always hurt.
He's not always hurt. He's not. He's been hurt 2 years. Sully, this is my thing. You've already triggered me into my rant. We're already going into it.
Fair enough.
I will give you this. He has been hurt for the last 2 years, but you look back at the entire rest of his career, he had over 140 innings literally every other year that was a full season. Everyone counts, look at the last 3 years. Look, in 2020, he only threw 68 innings. Yeah, there was only 60 games.
Okay,
yeah, I know.
That's
fair. They don't, though. They often bring that up and lump all those 3 years as, he's been hurt for 3 years. Also, the guy didn't start pitching as a full-time pitcher until his junior year of college. So there are fewer innings on his arm. He didn't get called up until I believe he was 26 years old was his rookie year. So there's not a whole lot of wear and tear and innings on his arm. Dr. Keith Meister, who is the Rangers physician, when he did his physical on deGrom, he went all in, checking all kinds of things, very, very thorough. Well, yeah, no, it was more strenuous physical than would traditionally be done because of the last 2 years and obviously the size of the investment. And yeah, he is a little bit older. He's going to turn 35 this year in the middle of the season. But Meister, when I was more concerned about the shoulder injury, which was what happened last year, he said, this is not something that's going to, permeate throughout your career. This is a one-off thing. This is not something that's going to come back and hurt you for the rest of your career. And the other was what it wasn't even Tommy John surgery. It was just ligament soreness that he said he could have pitched through at the end of that 2021 season, which, by the way, he had a 1.08 ERA in 92 innings, finished top 10 in Cy Young voting with the half a season. That's how freaking good he was. And people forget, his last start was just shutting down the Padres lineup in the playoffs and winning the Mets their one game in the playoffs last year. So I get Jacob deGrom is hurt. He's been hurt for 2 years. Look at his track record. Look at his history. He has been a very, very durable pitcher. And I think that the myopicness of all of Major League Baseball and a lot of Major League Baseball commentary of saying, well, this guy's always hurt forever. And then you look at Carlos Rodon, and he got none of that treatment. He has had one healthy season his entire career. Rodon has, and everyone's like, oh no, the Yankees did great. There's no risk there. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? He's had one healthy year, and I like Rodon. I think that's a great signing. But like the double standard just boggles my mind. And it's the same thing with Verlander as well, who's 40 and just missed 2 seasons and is going to be 41 this year. It's like, come on, you gotta apply that standard to everybody or nobody. You can't just crap on the Rangers.
No, you don't. No, you don't. For this reason, the Yankees have Garrett Cole. They signed Garrett Cole to be their ace. The purpose of Rodon is not to be their ace. He's their number 2 or 3 starter. And
no, he's number 2 at worst.
Fine. Then fine. But what it does is it also takes the pressure off of Luis Severino. It takes the pressure off of some of the other pitchers there who are being asked to be a 2 or 3 starter who are not. It's a different situation. You're asking deGrom to be the anchor of their staff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah.
He's going to be that anywhere. He's going to be the best pitcher on any rotation.
Then why would the Mets have?
Because the Mets are stupid.
They're not stupid.
They signed a guy who's 5 years older than him.
Yeah, coming off of, I understand the risk of but I understand the risk with Justin Verlander. I really do. He missed the COVID year and he missed the year before. He bookended them with Cy Young seasons, and they didn't give him a big long-term deal, and they're not asking him to be
They gave him only 2 fewer years than Jacob deGrom, and they paid him $6 million a year more. I just don't understand why the Mets were so ready and willing to just boot this guy out the door and trash him all the way out.
That's not a red flag for you.
It's a red flag for me about the Mets as an organization. A guy who is a homegrown star, who pitched, his heart out, who won 2 Cy Youngs, who has been absolutely incredible, who is beloved by the franchise, is like, we want to get this older guy, and then use our mouthpiece in the New York Post to just absolutely dog him every chance we get.
All right.
It bothers me.
It's a difference between a team that is a playoff team and there wasn't a playoff team, and that is looking at you're not winning the division. I'm sorry, I don't care how.
No. I'll agree with you. I'll totally agree with you there. I don't think that's not entertaining it.
And you're not finishing second place.
I'm not willing to concede that part.
Okay. All right. So we're talking. There are 3 wild card spots that they're going with. Okay. The Rangers need to get one of those 3, right? And mind you, let me throw this caveat. I like very much so that the Rangers are going for it. I do. I like it, and I want to just throw this out there before Ranger fans hate me or say you're anti-Rangers.
It's too late. You've already doomed yourself.
I'm not anti-Rangers. How the hell could anyone be anti-Rangers? Okay, unless you're from Houston or what? You're Bautista. I don't know, but So, and I wanted Nelson Cruz to catch that ball or Scott Feldman to strike out Lance Berkman. Okay, I wanted one of those things to happen.
You did bring up 2011, 2015, and 16 all on this show.
All right,
come on, we're friends. We're friends, man.
I didn't want Dean Palmer to throw that ball into the dirt in extra innings. They went up 2-bagel. Going back to Arlington. Anyway, what was I saying? I'm just saying that they're realistically one of 3 slots they're playing for, and I think realistically one of 2 slots that they're paying for, because I think both the Blue Jays and the Yankees are making the playoffs. So
That's
essentially, they're fighting the runner-up of the Central, either Cleveland or Minnesota. Sorry, Chicago. They're fighting Tampa, Seattle. Maybe the White Sox if they get, but I don't see the White Sox doing anything. They're a disaster.
Maybe I'd almost bank more on the Twins, honestly.
Yeah, I think the Twins are more. I think that's why I said it's either the runner-up, Cleveland or Minnesota are going to win.
See, I'm not entirely sold on the Yankees. Like, I know that sounds crazy to say, but I still think they have a lot of holes in their team, and they didn't like they didn't get all that much better. Like their team last year had a lot of holes in it, and Frankie Montas is probably going to be done for the year. I mean, Rodon, who knows about his health? I hope for his sake that he's healthy and great because I really like him. I think he's a great player, but I don't know how much you can bank on that. And we saw in the playoffs how much their offense was just Aaron Judge and friends, and they didn't really improve that. They brought Rizzo back and they brought Aaron Judge back, which you have to do, but like, I mean,
well, I agree that the Yankees are not a 99 win team. I think they're close to a low 90 win team. But
yeah, because Aaron Judge, as much as I don't think he's having another historic offensive season like that, and that was a big reason why they won.
Everything went right for them the first half. Yeah. King pitched great. Montgomery was effective. Like they didn't have tons of holes in the pitching staff. Their lineup was firing.
Nasty Nestor.
And then after the All-Star break, they went on their slump, and then they righted the ship in September. And I think the team they were in September is closer to who they really were. But I look at the Rangers. Again, I'm glad they're going for it, but they're banking so much on players to, risky players to pay off.
All pitchers are risky. All pitchers are risky no matter what. No, but the human body was not built to throw 100 miles an hour 100 times every fifth day. Like they're just not. Even the healthiest pitcher with no problems in the history of his life is still one bad pitch away from a Tommy John surgery. Like
I'm sorry, I'm still thinking you're seeing things through Ranger colored glasses right here.
People are just underestimating.
But Eovaldi, I love him to death. Okay.
He's on a 2-year deal. He's on a 2-year deal making $17 million a year. That's not a huge investment. Like, and Andrew Heaney, he's making $25 million over 2 years. Like, it is not a huge investment on those two guys.
It's not the money for me because all these teams can spend piles and piles of money. I'm saying you are hoping to turn the ship around, and I hope they do. But you can't look me in the eye and say, okay, this strategy they have here is.
Why can't I?
What?
Why can't I? You don't know. You're underestimating how badly I've had it for the entire. We both started 2019. Of how bad it's been for me since I started. The delusion is a little bit real here, but I really do think that like this is going to be a competitive team because Jake Odorizzi is your number 6 starter. Say you built in 2 of those guys, 2 of the 4 guys you brought in goes down for multiple months. Then you're getting a lot of starts from Jake Odorizzi as your number 4 or 5 starter, which that's fine. And then Dane Dunning is your number 5 or 6 starter. That's fine. That's solid. That's still a really decent rotation. And last year, the Rangers had such an incredible record. I believe it was something in the like 60 or 70 win percentage in games started by Martin Perez or John Gray. Like it was insane, the difference between them and everybody else. And the offense is solid. Like Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Nathaniel Lowe is one of the better top 3s in baseball. And the depth there is really, really good. And I think people are underestimating that.
I'll never worry about the Texas Rangers offense.
Clearly, you didn't watch in 2020, nor should you have.
Okay, yes, but I mean, all right. The point I'm making, and I think I have one, is that I'd like to see. These are all players that I find insanely likable. Obviously, I mean, love deGrom. I love Eovaldi. I'll tell you, we're here with Bryce Patrick, who's the host of Locked On Rangers. And I guess we're the being Siskel and Ebert here, or the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang. I love Bruce Bochy with the passion of 1,000 suns. He was my dad's favorite manager, as my dad was a fan of the rabid fan of the Giants right up until the end of his life. Bruce Bochy is clearly a Hall of Famer. 3 World Series titles with the San Francisco Giants. No one had ever won a single one in San Francisco, and has managed half of the Padres pennants were under Bruce Bochy's tutelage. Bochy hasn't managed for a few years. Now, that could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. And there have been some times when a manager has stepped away for a few years and then they came back and it's turned out to be a great thing. Jim Leland comes to mind. Dusty Baker and his success he's had with the Astros has come to mind. Although his gap, I don't think was his gap was closer to Bochy's gap, like 3 or 4 years. Sometimes it would be a catastrophe, like what happened with La Russa last year. And
to be fair, many people, actually literally everyone except for the owner who hired him, saw that it would be a catastrophe beforehand.
I did a podcast that if you did a Venn diagram and to figure out who the worst possible manager for that White Sox team was, in the center would be the words Tony La Russa.
Spot on.
And I'm not going to bring up what year his final year with the Cardinals was, but he had the greatest ride off into the sunset, winning Game 7 of the World Series against a team I don't remember who he beat. But, then he came back and
here's the White Sox.
He ruined his curtain calls. And the fact it had hurt him that he won the division. Better bring him back. And it was clear by May last year that they should have said, Tony, we're going to promote you to the vice president of Franks and Beans and Beans and Franks. We'll make it look like it's a move upwards. And we got to have any live human being be the manager of this team other than you. And they didn't do that. It probably cost them the division. Now, Bochy is as great a manager as I've seen over the last bunch of years, and sometimes one with a lot less than some of the other teams. He beat the Philadelphia Phillies in 2010, a year where the Phillies had just one of the most stacked starting pitching staffs I ever saw in my life. They went on to win the World Series. I don't recall who they beat that year.
That's the year that bothers me looking back more. I mean, it didn't bother me as much at the time, but it almost bothers me more looking at that roster and saying, like, that Rangers team was way better than the Giants that year. Like, they were just way better, but it was even year BS and Tim Lincecum magic.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to see a lot of the way Bochy handles this team and the importance of a manager. And this is kind of excuse the term, the wild card for what he will do for this team.
Breaking news: Sully says Rangers are a wild card.
I've been proven wrong. I've been wrong in the past. I'll be wrong again. There have been times I said the team has no chance of winning, and they win. There's some times I think this team's going to run away with it, and they wind up with a losing record. I've looked really, really dumb in the past for some of my picks. I think Texas is a very bizarre team. I think they could be. I personally think their ceiling is high 80s. If everything goes right, but because I think so much has to go right. I think their floor is pretty freaking low.
How low are you saying pretty freaking low?
90 some odd losses.
Wow. The disrespect. I think that's insane. Honestly, I think there's no way this team loses 90 games unless Jacob deGrom's arm falls off and a nuclear bomb goes off and surprise Arizona. I don't see this team losing 90 games.
There's precedent for both of those.
There have been nuclear bombs that go off and
I just assume somewhere nuclear bombs go off somewhere in Arizona. That's why we have Arizona.
That's fair. That is why we have Arizona.
I mean, no offense to my many friends who live in Arizona and love them. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, Jacob Bricka. And, Rebecca Tingley and all my other friends who live in Arizona, forgive me. I want the Rangers to do well. I said before, if you eliminate any hope for the Red Sox, which they stink, their floor is give me a shovel and keep digging. Okay, Red Sox I think are a 90-loss team. I don't think they have a prayer of contending, and I don't know what the hell they're doing. Okay, so let me get that straight for those of you who think I'm just a hater. What I want is a generational moment, that championship that a fan base has been drooling for for generations, if not for all time. The Rangers are one of the few teams that have never won a World Series, still out there with images of a World Series dancing in their head. That's why teams like the Rangers, like the Mariners, like the Rays, teams that have never won it, I want to see them win it. Because I want them to have, first of all, get the franchise off the schneid. But
you also want to see me weep grown man tears when it does happen.
I want to see you weep like crazy. I want to see you in full end of Toy Story 3 mode. Okay? By the way, I just finished crying, and I saw it in 2010. I want a Toy Story 3 Up double feature with you.
Oh man, yeah, that's about what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I mean that's just nonstop crying.
Can you imagine if they do it when Joey Gallo comes back to the Rangers to do it? I might literally like cry myself to death.
Wait, did Gallo resign with the Rangers?
Okay, no, I'm in the future, an alternate universe that I'm imagining where this happens and all my dreams come true. That's how it would happen.
Every Ranger season, everywhere, all at once. It's just all.
Adrian Beltre comes back just to hang out.
Cruz makes the catch.
All kinds of redemption.
Bautista fouls it off. It's all sort of all going back and forth. You got the hot dogs as the fingers. See the movie, folks. The kid who played Short Round is going to win an Oscar, and he deserves it because the movie's he's amazing. Welcome to Locked On Kehei Kwan. Look at. I'd like to see the Rangers do well. I'm not buying it. Unless the Owen Whites of the world show up and start to dominate and take the pressure off of everyone else. I'm not seeing it. And yes, I know it's a minor injury so far for Jacob deGrom. It's just, you kind of was hoping
he's already throwing again. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. For those who don't listen to Locked On Rangers, I have devised a new system of ranking my concerns with Jacob deGrom. It's called the DEFGrom system, based on the DEFCON system. I feel really good about it. I literally like starting every episode probably from now until the end of time with my DEFGrom rating. We're at DEFGrom 5, the lowest level of DEFGrom preparedness. So we're fine because I have to be.
No, there you go. Well, look at Bryce. I'm going to have you back on during the regular season. I am. And you can I told me so all you want.
Oh, I will. I will.
If they don't, I'm not going to I told you so you because I'd like them to contend. Look at, here's one thing I'd like to see. I honestly would like to see this. I would like to see the Rangers and the Astros have a real rivalry, have real intensity. Because that's the reason why the Astros, one of the teams that as a youngster, I completely associated with the National League, a quintessential National League team, is freaking floating around the American League.
I agree. Send them back.
Well, I mean, I've said what I've said over and over. This was my caveat because I was never a fan of the universal DH. I liked the fact you had two leagues that had two distinctly different feels. Once there was a universal DH, the existence of the American League and National League is now meaningless. So let's cut the crap, realign, and create 4 regional conferences or regional divisions: the North, South, Central, West. And the Rangers might have a long trip, but I'd put them in the South. You'd have, Houston in the same division with Atlanta.
Oh, no. Oh, why would you do that to me? No, we already have to deal with the Astros. Don't put Atlanta in there. That's so mean. No, put us in the Central. Give us just the Astros and a bunch of bum teams. Come on, man.
South.
Don't do that to me. It's all based on time zone. Come on.
South.
There's already some rivalry there.
West right now. You're not in the same time zone as California.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm agreeing that it should be some realignment. I'm tired of all of those late night West Coast road trips, Sully. I'm so tired. It's gonna be early.
You're being Atlanta and Tampa, baby.
Oh gosh, no! Don't give me the good teams. Give me the mid teams. Give me the middle of the country. I rekindle that rivalry with with St. Louis, which I can't even remember why the Rangers have a rivalry there. Just
I know
completely
why they
can't
played
remember.
a couple memorable games against St.
Nope,
Louis.
I can't remember them. At all.
Men in Black. Men in Black.
Yep. For my own mental health.
Eternal sunshine and spotless mind. Got that right out. Got it. All right. Well, look, I've tortured you enough, Bryce Patrick. Look, I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong because when the Rangers win the World Series, notice how I phrased that. When the Rangers win the World Series, fans like you will be there jumping up and down, realizing, oh, it was worth all of it. It was worth all of it. And you can look to your grandchildren and say, okay, pull the plug. I
can I'll probably have several by the time it happens.
Beep, beep, beep. You know, Adrian Patrick, Yvonne Patrick,
Joey Patrick,
Rugned Patrick.
I don't know if I can get away with a Rugned as a grandchild, but I'll do my best to make it happen.
deGrom Patrick.
That might work. Patrick is Dutch, so there's some kinship there.
deGrom Patrick. There you go. It comes with clogs. There you go. And like the windmills spinning in Holland, you'll be chasing them like Don Quixote as the Rangers seek their first ever World Series title. Bryce Patrick, we're engaged in a differing points of view on this, but in the end, this is what's going to be glorious. There is only one court of justice in all of this, and that's the diamond. And the Rangers can shut me up.
I'm just honestly, Sully, I'm just happy to have a team that for once I am avidly defending people not believing in them, as opposed to saying, you're right, this team is trash.
And here's where I do side with the ownership a lot. And that is they're trying to put a team on the field. They understand the purpose of a Major League Baseball team is not necessarily to deliver a championship to their fan base, but to deliver an entertaining summer. And I think you'd be hard pressed to say that they're not at least trying to put an entertaining product on the field. And so, and that's what every owner should do. That should be the owner's job. You're the one with a big pile of money. Throw it onto the field so that the fans who show up and buy the hot dogs and the foamwear number one fingers and everything else have a decent product to follow during the summertime, which is what the purpose of baseball is. And the other purpose of baseball is to help create really fun podcasts here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On MLB your first listen every day. Your next episode, well, obviously, that has to be Locked On Rangers. Your third listen, however, should be Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he goes deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Bryce Patrick is the host of the Locked On Rangers podcast, where they follow the 2023 World Series champion Texas Rangers day in and day out as they look to repeat as the World Series champions as we enter the 2024 season. Bryce Patrick, where can people follow your show, taking the day-to-day exploits of the champs to heart?
You can find my Twitter at Bryce Patrick. That's in my lower third. If you're watching on YouTube, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Rangers. We have a Facebook page that I'm actually posting shows on there now. You can find it wherever podcasts are found.
Yep. And you can follow us. Yep. Like this was a quiz. And you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and on Instagram. And I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Being the doom and gloom to the sunshine and happiness of Bryce Patrick's Texas Rangers. This has been Locked On MLB, Locked On Rangers crossover for the whichever day, 22nd, 21st, I don't know what day. We're recording this on the 21st of February, 2023. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.